As I said, welcome everybody. We're here to talk DDX bulk uploading, the most exciting part of your 2030 reporting, we hope. We've got some folks on the phone or on the line who are experts in this, so we'll be throwing some questions over to them or just having them weigh in on their processes as we go through. But I'm going to get started with some slides and a kind of basic overview. We'll do a quick demonstration, and then we can open it up for questions and sharing the wisdom of the crowd to make this less friction than it could possibly be otherwise. So we'll invite you to put your questions in the chat as well. Ina will be monitoring that. And let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay. All right, so you should be seeing the cover slide. Look good? Okay, sweet. All right, so we have our nice little 2030 logo going here. All right, quick introductions before we jump into some content. I am Melanie DeCola here at the AIA, been with the AIA about 5 years, but in the climate role, a little bit less than that, previously in the research role. And I'll let Ina introduce herself as well.
Thanks, Melanie. My name is Ina Bakioki. I use she, her pronouns. I've been on the AI climate team for about 3.5 years now and working on 2030 commitment and materials pledge for the past 2. So you will have recognized my name if you've been around the block for a while. I am the incessant name that will crop up in your inbox, especially as we get closer to March 31st. Reporting deadline.
And Ina also monitors the 2030 inbox as well. So she's your first point of contact as we have questions. Note here the 2030 email address for questions that you cannot find answers to in the help pages. Also note, I mean, if you're here, you probably know, but maybe not, that reporting goes until March 31st. That's pretty much the same schedule. As previous years, we have a help page. I'll go into a little bit of that, where to find things. We also have more office hours coming up, including some open questions. You can come and join, ask us a question, jump off, get some help. And then as well, a reminder that materials pledge reporting period is open until the end of May. And should you want more information on that, you can go to the same register page and you'll see our materials pledge open offices. All right, quick overview of bulk uploading. Reminder that there are different ways to import your projects into the DDX. You can do it directly into the interface itself. You can use the bulk upload spreadsheet, which is what we're here to talk about today, or you can use energy modeling software as well. This is what the DDX looks like once you get into it. This is our little test setup here, screenshot, and the red box is delineating your first protocol for importing your Excel projects, your list of projects into it. And I'll show you where all this is as we go through the demonstration as well. Once you click that box to import, this is the screen you'll see where you select your file, you will upload. It also includes some templates for you to get started with, which is actually what I'm using today to show some of the potential errors and how that looks as you're starting to upload, input your projects. And then you get the little portfolio submission link as well, and we'll show you where this all lives. Once you hit the import, this is the next page you'll see, and it should show you a basic overview of everything in your spreadsheet. And then at the bottom here, the little errors list, and we'll show you what that looks like. And after you submit your projects, just wanted to call this out that you should get an email auto emailed from the 2030 commitment team, kind of proving that you have submitted your portfolio. And just to note that if you do not get this email, it probably means that you haven't officially submitted for the year. So let us know if you do not think that's correct, or if you're not seeing something come through that should. We've also had some emails back and forth with people who don't think their badge number is quite correct, and we can look into that as well, recording the number of years that you've been reporting. So definitely let us know. And you can see the 2030 commitment is CC'd on this email, so that's your best solution to problems. All right, here's just the basic overview. If you went to one of our other open office hours, you've seen this, but this is the support page, and it's a great resource for everything. All questions you may have, you can use the little search button in there to pull up an article, or there's little carrots that you can open up over on the left-hand side to find what you need. And specifically wanted to call attention to the bulk import page and the bulk import guide PDF, which we have been updating over the last month and weeks. If you see any errors in this bulk import guide, do let us know as well, and we will get it updated to reflect the latest. But this is a great resource to have if it's your first or maybe second time doing the bulk import. You want to understand the different fields, and I'll get into some of the changes that were made in the last year, and just do a quick overview of what the whole PDF looks like as well. Reminder, we do have a peer-to-peer network. We want to activate this more. So if you have questions that you think the whole network would be helpful in getting you to answer that are maybe not specific for us as staff, this is a great place to go and post your question. We're also going to encourage people to post best practices here, so you can go in and do a little search. If you're an AIA Knowledge Community member, it's the same setup as a knowledge community. It's just for 2030 specifically. And if you want to join, you can email 2030commitment@aia.org and we'll get you set up. And finally, we do have a YouTube page where we're posting these recordings. You can always go back and rewatch or get tips and tricks. And I specifically wanted to call out that we're adding materials pledge recording sessions, our open office hours, to this as well, which we haven't had previously. So if you're interested in materials pledge information and process, please do go check these out, as well as we have a couple of little promo videos here that were recorded at conference last year that are just super fun little introductions to 2030. If you have some folks in your life who are considering joining, these are great little videos to send them links to. All right, so that's it for the slide portion. Any questions to address before we get into the actual bulk import process? All right. I am going to go ahead, minimize, move over my DDX. Okay, so now you should be seeing my 2030 DDX homepage and seeing the projects that we have listed in our little test account. So I can show you the process for bulk importing. So here's our portfolio overview. I just clicked reporting year to do a sort by reporting year. All your projects that you're working on or active now should come up here. But this is not the place where you actually import. You can export your projects from here. You can create a new project. You can search your projects, do all the kind of admin stuff. But to upload, you want to go over to your company tab. And here is your import button with a nice handy little pop-up there to tell you. And before I get into the actual import, I'm just gonna show you the help pages. So this is our DDX help pages. As I was saying before, these little topic areas you can open up. Currently, I'm in the add projects through bulk import. Note, I have a few more options here as an admin. You won't necessarily see all these, but basically wanted to point your attention to the bulk import guide here. We also have the templates here as well. This is another way to get the same thing that was over here in the, well, I haven't clicked it yet, in the import, these templates that are listed here. And once you open the PDF, this is what it looks like. We have been updating it as of a few weeks ago. Everything is linked. You can pop down to the section that you need. This gives you kind of step-by-step instructions. But what I find most useful, I continue to scroll down, is when we get down to the tables here. And I'll show you some spots that you will be particularly interested in because you will need some of these categories as you're filling in your spreadsheet. Otherwise, you are going to get errors when you try to import. So I'll just note that these are here as well as there's quite a few pages of table here. You keep scrolling. You will get down to some additional tables here. These are kind of a appendix or a glossary that you can use to make sure what's in your import spreadsheet is matching up with what's in the DDX. I would recommend having this PDF open so you can quickly go back and forth between the two. You can understand the latest energy codes. We just updated this maybe a month ago or so to reflect some new energy codes. They are also in the DDX in the drop downs, but this is another way to find the information that you'll need. And then energy modeling tools, we've done some updates to as well. Life cycle assessment tools. So great reference page here. All right, let's go ahead and do our imports. So as I said, we're in the company tab. We click that import button. Now we're going to choose a file. Oh, and also you can get to the bulk import help page here as well. Little link here. So we're going to go ahead and choose our file. All right, and I have a file here that already has some errors in it, so we can show you what those look like. Okay, before I hit import, a note on the portfolio submission. If you are sure that everything in your imports spreadsheet is correct and is sort of your final version, you can select this button. It will serve as your portfolio submission. You can go back in and override that, but would recommend importing first and checking your errors and just having a log of your imports before you go in and submit. So I'm going to leave that unchecked. Okay. So here we go. This is our little summary. It tells you what the file name is, tells you when you uploaded it, and tells you basically what's kind of in your bulk upload spreadsheet. The part that we're most interested in here is the errors. As you can see at the bottom, the import button is grayed out. You are not able to import your spreadsheet with errors in it. So you'll need to go back in and check the errors, and handily it tells you the rows and the corrective action you need to take. This is what I meant when I said you would likely have the PDF next to you so you can go in, find the correct nomenclature for these various things, and then update your spreadsheet. So I'm going to pull over my spreadsheet. And show you where some of these errors are. So I've actually turned them red for myself so they're easier to find, but it'll tell you the row number here, 2545. And here we go with the office location, no office location with that name found in your firm. And this is just for you. This is not DDX wide. This is what you have set up for your own company, your own firm. And it's telling me that USDC Alexandria is incorrect. So I'm going to go ahead and match the other firms that are there. Although interestingly, it does allow me to have USDC and Canada, Alberta. Okay, scrolling over to our invalid carbon modeling scopes. So this is the number one thing I've been hearing as I am asking people to test bulk import is that the modeling scopes are coming up as errors, and I will show you where to find the correct nomenclature for that. So we also have an invalid energy modeling tool. So if you use the sample spreadsheets that were in the DDX, I think it even said Autodesk Insight 360. That is no longer correct. It's now just Autodesk Insight. I'm just going to have all these match. Again, there's a list of these in the PDF as well as in the DDX itself. You can consult. And I'm going to keep scrolling over to our carbon modeling scopes. Okay. So a little bit of background on why these are showing up as errors. This is what they used to be listed as in the DDX, but in the past year, especially at the end of last year, we updated our embodied carbon scopes to match with the ECHO schema for embodied carbon. And we slightly changed the nomenclature for these different scopes. So if you're looking for the correct ones, go into the PDF. And they're actually, we could pull them out as a table. I thought about doing that. And then to save time, they are already in here. And I'll show you where to go. A little bit confusing. But here you go, carbon modeling scopes. And this is the nomenclature you want to use. And as well, you have to have these little lines in between, and it basically breaks that out for you. But what we want to do is change this to have shell superstructure. It didn't used to say that, and a few of these other ones have changed as well. So just keep an eye out for that, because I am seeing that people are encountering errors with that. So I'm going to just change this real quick. Just going to add in the word shell. This should work going forward. If it doesn't, we have bigger issues. Back to black for myself. Okay. Go ahead and save this one. And do a new import. And hopefully our errors will be cleared out here. All right, so again, under our company tab, going to import, choose file, choose our saved over version. Hit import. And this is the magic phrase here. Your import is successfully completed. You can now view your projects. So this is noting that there are no errors, 000. And there's a no error table down here as well. All right. So those are the basic steps to take. Any questions to address that have come in? I can open the chat as well.
Melanie, while you're on this screen, just some advice for people. So,
Yep.
Melanie's testing this with a 4-row spreadsheet, right? So let's say you've got 50. When you look at this, if you've got an error that's only on a couple rows, chances are it's something like you saw, like somebody put the wrong input in or something's wonky. But sometimes you might see an error that's like on all 50 rows. the place to check for that is the header of the column, especially if, if you didn't download this sample spreadsheet for this year's data and you're using one from last year, they might have changed capitalization or title in one of the column headers. So just take the sample one and like maybe last year the T in type was capitalized. If you get like all rows coming up with an error, that's the first thing to check, and that usually solves it. You just go in and change the header of your column.
Yeah, seeing the note here too would be great to, if these input option tables can be provided in the CSV or Excel file. Yeah. Agree. Other questions? Have people been seeing errors that they don't recognize or don't know how to fix?
Hi, my name is Priyal Sheda.
Yeah.
From Parkin. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I don't really have questions around the bulk upload, but related to that. So the two questions are, one is that there is a new feature of collaboration. So
Yes.
can we do that after we bulk upload that? And the second piece is that once we have bulk upload, can we add information or change information on the website? Because I know the other new feature which has come up is embodied carbon, and I don't
Yep.
know if that is something which is added to the Excel bulk upload as well.
Yeah, great questions. So the embodied carbon, if you're creating an embodied carbon only project, we have not included those fields in the bulk upload spreadsheet purposefully, partly because we were making changes up until the very end of the year, and we really didn't want to confuse people who are used to using the bulk import process. They will be integrated at some point, but for now we're asking folks, if you want to do embodied carbon only project, to go in and put that in manually and kind of get comfortable with the fields that are in there, understand how it's working, understand the calculations or the sums that it's doing for you before we get that out into the bulk import process. And they're not required, so you're not going to get dinged. You can still submit your normal projects as well. And then for the collaboration, yes, you can go in. Once you do your bulk upload, you can go into your projects, you can change information, you can override things, you can add collaborators. And I was going to quickly go in and see if there's a easy one where I could show you the collaborators. It's under this main part, right? Now you're seeing my inexperience with the DDX showing here. All right, sorry, it's not under this. Here it is, the collaborators here. So you can add a collaborator. I know some questions have come up in the past with architects of record, or if you're having engineers doing your input. I think probably best practice is to have the main firm who's kind of running the project be your main submitter, but you can add a collaborator here by company and then have the person join. You could give them read-only access or editing access as well, and then invite to collaborate, and then they can go in and make changes. But only the person who's kind of the admin for your DDX account is going to be able to have this submit portfolio. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great.
And just on that note, I remember last year I was trying to ask this question, but again, I just wanted to confirm this year is that can we do bulk upload and direct uploads, or is it either or?
No, you can do both.
We can do both, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
bulk
That's
upload
good
is
to know.
kind of an extra, it's a quicker way to get a bunch of projects into the DDX if you need to go into them later, change something, but you can create projects either way.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it from me for now. Thank you.
Sure.
I'll just note in the chat, we had a
Yeah.
question on if you're bulk importing and then, but you already have an existing project in the DDX, will that override that data? And the answer is yes. I will just say triple check, make sure those project numbers are the exact same.
Yeah.
And that will be kind of the way that the DDX will know that that is the project that you're trying to update that's already existing in your company portfolio.
Any other questions or sort of best practices that, I don't know, Apurva or Dan, you want to share any things that you tell your teams to do before submitting, or best practices in the spreadsheets themselves?
I have a question for Dan Giaconetti, just in terms of best practices. It kind of piggybacks off the question in the chat because I'm not in a large practice model where we do a lot of bulk, but I think on the idea of updating projects that are already in the system, that would be really convenient to minimize the chance that we might have an issue where you didn't quite get the name exactly right. And now you accidentally have two projects, the old one and the new one that you thought you were updating, but instead it created a second project. Dan, would it make sense to actually, I think when you download your projects, when you export, it's not the same Excel fields as the bulk upload Excel, but you could still use that to make sure that you can basically copy and paste over those names pretty efficiently. Do you do that in any sort of way, like download to make sure that you can duplicate information through Excel and it's not going to be as likely that you'll have those just human error in the process?
So two pieces here. So I don't have direct experience with the question, and because I don't download, because we actually have a system through our CRM system that we've pre-programmed based on, we update it every year based on the sample Excel. And so I push a button in Power BI and I get all of our reporting in the format, and that turns into my spreadsheet. So I have gone in and had to fix things like columns that have changed from the previous year. But I think if I remember correctly, I think when you import into the DDX, I don't think it matches projects up by the name. I think it matches projects up by the project number. And that's a place where you probably have less variability. So as long as year over year, you're not changing your project number, it should not create a duplicate entry for it. It should like, I don't know if it overwrites the project name or uses the old project name, but it should put the data on top of the entry with that previous project.
A great detail. Thanks for that.
So one thing that I usually follow when I'm trying to get information from different project teams is I take in my Excel spreadsheet, I have like a drop down for your project city or like your use type, and just so that it matches with the bulk upload spelling exactly the way you want it to. Otherwise, I used to face problems where I have 50 rows of wrong capitalization, or there's not a space in between education and K-12 and stuff like that. So that has helped me a lot with QCing these spreadsheets before I upload.
Yeah, and that's something we've discussed too, is having drop downs as part of the template that firms can download. I think it was just a time thing that we just didn't get there. But yeah, we could embed some of this. The problem is when things change, like tool names are changing all the time. I already know we're outdated on some of these tool names. So it's like it's kind of a constant task that we have to stay on top of. But that's a great tip though.
Well, and the other thing to piggyback on that is, if you haven't had the opportunity to do the amazing thing that Aportva did and create drop downs in the spreadsheet, if you find yourselves with like a whole column of data that's throwing an error because of capitalization, find whoever your firm's Excel wizard is, because it's pretty easy to write some formulas that say like, take this column and automatically insert a space and take the second word and make it from an initial cap to a lowercase. And that's
Or
much
add those-
quicker than doing it manually. If you've got 1,000 projects or something in there, there are ways to do that that'll help.
Yeah, so I just logged into a project to show you the project number. So if you're using the same project numbers firm-wide, those are unlikely to change, and that's how your project will be known in the DDX as well.
Hey, Melanie, while you're on that screen, can you go back for a second? So
Yeah.
before Melanie showed it threw an error on the studio, and she changed it from Alexandria to DC, assuming that like whoever entered it maybe just thought, didn't know it was called that office, right? But if you're in a practice that's merged with somebody or grown, or you have a new office last year, you have to go into the company screen here, and maybe you can go to where it is, Melanie. There's a place in here where you can list all of your offices or all of your studios for your company. And once you add that new office or that new studio in there, then it won't throw an error. So like for us, we used to go by office and then we changed it to by studio. And so I went in and I changed this list. I changed this list from being named by office to being named by studio. So you have control over editing this, but when you go to submit, what you put as your location or studio has to match what you have in this list. So like if your Atlanta office for some reason moved to Buckhead and you're now calling it the Buckhead office, you could just edit this and rename it.
Good point. Yeah, the bulk import matches to what you have input, not some universal constant. And here, actually, since we're on this page, is where you can find out if you can submit your portfolio, if you're an administrator or an employee. You may not have the submit portfolio in your personal view of the DDX, and that's how you would go and ask your point of contact for the firm, or but figure out who can add you in here. Any other questions, things we should cover?
I do have questions outside of bulk upload, if I can ask.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so we do have a lot of data center projects, and it has always been an issue, and it currently is an issue as well, because we don't have EY numbers for that. And I don't think there is anything in the zero tool as well for any of that. So if we want to track against a target or baselines or anything, it really does not give us a really good idea of the project. So wanted to understand if other companies are facing something similar. Are we planning to come up with a solution for that? Like, how are we planning to move forward?
Yes, we do know it's a problem. I was also just talking to somebody who does a lot of stadiums, and we don't have a stadium baseline as well.
And even aviation, sorry, just to add.
So yeah, I don't specifically have an answer to that. What we look to our kind of working group and DDX group members is to tell us what a good data set is, and I don't think we have that yet.
No, but I can tell you what we've done as a workaround, Real. So if you have at least one data center in the firm that you've energy modeled, which you might have if you've done a lead project, and so we have 2 or 3 that we've energy modeled for lead. What we did was we took the EUI, we took the EUI from that, and we made a ratio of what the megawatt size of the data center was, what the EUI was, what the PUE, which is the metric they uses, and we figured that out. And then we said, okay, well, that energy model from LEED is based on ASHRAE 2010. The 2003 CBEX data is based on ASHRAE 2004. How much less efficient was ASHRAE 2004 than 2010? And you put that percentage and you use that percentage to back into a EUI baseline of what that data center would have been if it had been designed back in 2003 by 2004 ASHRAE standards. And that gives you a number that you can throw in there. Unfortunately, unlike the other baselines in the DDX, it varies with the size of the data center. So you can't say like use that baseline for everything, but you can make a ratio between that and the size of that particular data center and use it to kind of replicate the process without energy modeling for the other data centers. And so that's kind of what we've been doing in the meantime until everyone can agree on like a process for doing this.
And are you considering only the core and shell energy use in that, or are you even using the data hall energy use?
We're
Because I know that
pulling out the IT load as
Okay.
like you might if you were doing a project that was a factory or something where you're taking process load out, and LEED tells you to do that too, because you know, as architects and engineers, we're not responsible for the energy efficiency of the chips, right? But what we're not doing that I've heard some data center people do, which I don't recommend, is we're not just looking at the small admin area and ignoring the data hall. We are taking responsibility for the huge energy load of cooling the data hall as part of our design, because you know, we should be figuring out how to do that more efficiently. So the EUIs will be higher than anything else in your portfolio.
Yeah, and that's what has happened, because last year we did get reports back for our own analysis done. And then the data center was really throwing off the entire portfolio for our company because the numbers were really like way off or either way too high for us to really account for. So that's another piece that we have to treat aviation, data center, all of those sector related EUI separate from the regular projects. So it really is something challenging for us and we're trying to figure out. And that might not really be helpful in the overall DDX reporting and the numbers which you guys get out as well, because if there is even one data center, it's probably going to throw the average off or the reductions off for the entire portfolio.
Yeah, but it is a, I don't want to say common, but it is a use type that a lot of our larger firms are building. So we do need to understand the trends that are going on in data centers as well. Dan, I think there's a follow-up question for you here. Finding ratios of, say, ASHRAE 2004 to 2010 baseline.
Yeah, I don't remember off the top of my head. I know I had done an internet search and then found a scholarly paper on it and vetted it with a mechanical engineer. But if anybody's interested, I just put my email address in there. Shoot me a note and I'll look through my spreadsheets and my notes and I'll send you all the reference that I have. And then I was just going to say, so I'm the co-chair of the LFRT's 2030 working group, and Chuck Berger from Gensler, who's my co-chair, he and I have been like working on this and trying to get, you know, other people from industry involved so we can come up with, you know, something we all agree on. And one other thing that we've been talking to Melanie and AA about is there a way to have an option when you look at the reporting data to kind of pull data centers to the side when you look at your overall portfolio so that the extreme energy use of the data centers doesn't skew your whole portfolio, but we're not ignoring them? Because some firms are just saying it's going to skew our portfolio, we're ignoring it. Like, we don't want to ignore it, but it kind of should be to the side compared to more common things that you can get closer to net zero with, like schools and community projects and such.
Yeah, I would totally agree. And that's what we've been doing right now as well, just treating it as a separate entity. Even though we do want to look at reductions, it's not pretty much comparable with other use types. But yeah, Dan, I did get your email address. I'll reach out. But in case if you're working on that piece, then please do include me. I would love to support this effort.
And on Chris's question too, and Dan, I know you mentioned a white paper. I was going to add to it. Another option is, Chris, the DOE, every time a new version of ASHRAE is issued, they will have a determination. So if you Google ASHRAE 90.1 DOE determinations, it's always for the versus the previous edition. So you have to walk it back each edition, but you can figure it out that way too.
All right, a couple other questions in here I wanted to address. One about project numbers. Is it bad practice to just upload the project as a new project with a new project number? I wouldn't. do that because then you're sort of double accounting, if I'm understanding your question correctly. We try not to have double versions of the same project in there. And you can go in and change your project phasing if that's what you're asking to add on to an existing project. But we want you to keep the project number the same. Yeah, and then the employee question, no, they will stay in your company portfolio. Yep. Great. All right, got about 15 minutes left. Any final kind of questions? Or I'll give you 15 minutes back of your day.
Nothing from me. Thank you.
Great. Again, you can always email us at the 2030commitment@aia.org address. We can look, we have admin access. We can look into your company on the back end. We can help get your problem solved. If you're seeing errors you don't understand, let us know. Happy to help you guys with reporting and make sure things are, if not frictionless, less friction. And thank you to Dan and Dan for providing insights. It was really helpful. All right.